Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the reminder that for all Johnson's threats to suspend the Northern Ireland Protocol, but I did say in my last video we should call it the Boris Johnson Protocol, this would not just be a breach of international law for which we could face economic sanctions, but against British law for which the courts in this country could be asked to intervene. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, as I was discussing in my last video, the G7 meeting that Boris Johnson was excited to host has turned into a complete diplomatic disaster for us. So stung by the beasting he was getting from world leaders, including President Biden, he completely melted down, ranted an ultimatum to the EU. Boris gives the EU 7-day deadline to end sausage wars, the Sunday Express, proudly proclaimed. 7 days? An unusually short deadline for one of Bojo the Wonder Clown's ultimata. He usually gives himself a few months or a few weeks at least so that he can make his threats, get his good copy in the papers, and then everyone can forget he ever made the threat before backing down when literally nobody is watching. Except maybe me and a few others who already didn't take it seriously in the first place. Then we saw Dominic Raab criticising EU leaders, including, and indeed especially, President Macron, for saying that Northern Ireland was different to the rest of the UK. This was misrepresented in some Brexit papers as him saying it's not part of the UK. He never said that. But different. And Raab said that this was offensive. I mean, discussing Northern Ireland's place in the UK is a deeply sensitive subject, and it may well offend charlatans like Raab. But I would suggest that not realising that it is different to the rest of the UK is what is getting us into this mess. And it's like, why would that even be all that sensitive? Yorkshire is different to Berkshire. Still part of the UK, still part of Britain, still part of England. No one has an issue with those differences. So why do we have to be afraid of differences between Britain and Northern Ireland? Because it is very different. David Hennig yesterday highlighted the post-Brexit differences, for example, between Gibraltar and Northern Ireland. Because both of them had the potential to be Brexit flashpoints, he said. Both of them had sensitive borders with the EU. Gibraltar sorted them out amicably. Well led. Northern Ireland hasn't. Now, of course, this is down to a number of things, and the comparison is complicated, granted. But it is true to say that Gibraltar sorted their position out on the basis of being different to the rest of the UK, to having a unique situation. The fact is that Northern Ireland has a unique situation. I mean, in many ways, even before Brexit it did. But after Brexit, it remains part of the EU's customs regulation system. Not Britain's. Boris Johnson signed that into law. And he wasn't compelled to either. It wasn't something he begrudgingly did. He personally ran a campaign to do this. And he signed it with a huge 80-seat majority. But now he wants to renege on it. Many in the Conservative Party went along with the protocol to leave the EU and then just dropped their obligations once they'd fooled enough of the public and their own party to get what they wanted. And in terms of the big picture, it doesn't matter what nonsense he talks about the EU just being mean, and we didn't anticipate these consequences. The Northern Ireland Protocol, or the Boris Johnson Protocol, is an international treaty. The legal texts make it clear that beyond an agreed grace period, for example, you cannot legally transport a chilled sausage from Britain to Northern Ireland. Boris Johnson signed up to that document. Not that there were any ways around that at the time, but there are potentially things they could do if they really needed to. There are actually practical ways to solve most of the problems with the protocol. Discussed them, I think it was on Saturday. But the law is the law. Breaking international law is different to breaking domestic law. You know, we can face international sanctions. I mean, that's going to be economic sanctions. As such, the consequences can be just as serious, sometimes more serious if affected countries are very powerful and mean business. But none of the consequences involve directly stopping Boris Johnson, just causing enough discomfort in the country that he can potentially be forced to fall back into line. But a George Peretz QC was reminding people at the weekend that the protocol is not just a matter of international law, but British law as well. And I think it's an easy thing. I've certainly focused on what the EU would do if we suspended the protocol, because, you know, that's where the main political discussion is. But it is a matter of British law as well. He points to Section 7A of the Withdrawal Act, which I'll link below for you. The point is that when the government breaks domestic law, they can be taken to court. The court can then order remedies. Failure to comply with those remedies can mean being held in contempt of court. That can mean imprisonment. Recall in late 2019, Boris Johnson was forced to send the request to extend the deadline to Brexit. We were going to crash out, no deal Brexit at the end of October 2019. Boris Johnson kept making a show of the fact he wasn't going to be involved in any extension. And he did. He had to. He did it in the most childish way imaginable, but he still did it. Had he not, he would have been in contempt of court, and there are consequences for that involve inspecting the inside of a police van. Johnson has plans to stop the courts interfering with his authoritarian ways, but he hasn't done that yet. It takes time. Our learned friend also points out that there's nothing Johnson can do about this in the short term. I mean, efforts to neuter the courts will take time and will be heavily resisted. I like to think he won't be able to do it before the next general election. But Peretz notes also that changing the domestic legislation, because that's the other way around it, there will be nothing the courts can do about it if Boris Johnson changes the British law. He could change the Withdrawal Act. But that's not going to be easy. Because if this is a serious issue, you know, you may take the view, well, Johnson has this huge and largely tame majority to do as he wishes. You know, having so many new MPs that don't know what's going on helps him as well. Yes, this is true. And if he attempted to amend the withdrawal agreement, and in British law, you can't do it in international law, but in British law, yeah, I mean, his MPs are probably going to back him on that. But if he tries to amend the legislation, it would be opposed very strongly in the House of Lords. He could force it through with the Parliament Act, but that takes time. We've only just started a new session of Parliament. He'd have to wait till the next one. And if he's intent on doing something soon, even this year, his options are limited. And when I say limited, I mean limited to hoping that for some bizarre reason, the same senior judges that have not as yet shied away from hearing cases against his government and finding against them when the case is clear will somehow not want to touch such a serious constitutional threat to the UK as this. If Boris Johnson suspends his own protocol, it is a clear breach of the withdrawal agreement and would invite severe economic sanctions from the EU. And I know I've said that they've been weak so far on this, but I struggle to believe that they won't be anticipating this and already working out a shock and awe response to go immediately. They won't wait until it happens and go, right, what should we do about it? Surely they'll be thinking about options so that they know what to do about it when it happens, if it happens. Von der Leyen has attracted quite a bit of criticism since becoming Commission President for a number of missteps that she's made, but surely this wouldn't be one of them. Be mad. And there will be no appealing to the US for help. See, they may not join in on the economic sanctions themselves, but they've already made clear whose fault this will be. But domestically, the government could be taken to court. The courts could order the government to comply with the protocol or amend it. The government have no way of amending it in the short term, so they'd be ordered to comply. In fact, and this is just me speculating, I'm not a legal expert and I haven't seen this being discussed by a legal expert, but could it make it even worse for Johnson, for example? So imagine the situation. At the moment, we're dragging our feet on the protocol. So if we suspend it altogether, Johnson gets taken to court. The court says, no, this is Section 7A, mate, of the Withdrawal Act. This is a British act of law. You need to comply with it. And they make orders. If the court gets involved, could they potentially not just stop Johnson's suspension, but actively order the government to comply with some of the elements that they have been dragging their feet on? I don't know, but that would be hugely embarrassing for the government. And with no short-term way out of it, Johnson would be almost as kneecapped as he was before the 2019 election, back when we had a parliament who stopped him doing these things, and then they shot themselves in the head. Now, like I say, I'm not even remotely qualified to say exactly what the domestic consequences would be of Johnson actually suspending the protocol. But it is a matter of domestic law. It's British law, not just international law. And the judiciary is still independent in this country. And it's more than capable of hearing cases against the government. Whilst these three things are true, it is as clear as day that there will be consequences, and that Boris Johnson presumably is receiving expert advice on what those consequences will be. Another reason why I do not believe that Johnson would ultimately go through with this. I think it incredibly unlikely he'd do so just based on the international consequences. But the EU are a bit of a wild card there. See, it would involve taking very strong action against what should be a close ally. This will be somewhat outside of their experience. They've taken strong action against other countries in the past, but not generally ones that are ideologically supposedly aligned with them. And understandably, it's also not within their natural inclinations either. But Johnson is simply not legally able to follow through on this threat. It would help if the media would reinforce that message, because the sooner Johnson starts to accept that only realistic solutions are going to solve this, the better. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.